and thank you for joining me in this mind mastery video. For today's subject, I thought about talking about self-transformation and what can we do to assist this process, especially if we are in the middle of it, because I think that many people associate self-transformation with, or self-development with, something that is very pleasant, something that will get you from where you are now to where you want to be. And that journey is, quite amazing in itself, which I agree with. However, there's few obstacles that some people might face on this journey, and that's what I want to address in this video. So, to start with, how do we define self-transformation? What is self-development? We know from developmental psychology that we as humans in general, we go through various stages from when we are very little, from obviously when we learn how to perceive the reality around us, how to make sense from what we perceive. We know that as infants we start from this stage of being quite egocentric, so we don't fully understand the separation between ourselves when we are an infant and objects around us, which include our caretakers, other people, and material objects. So we start from this very peculiar state and we go through various stages of learning how to use language, how to communicate with other people, how to make sense of our experiences, and how to, for example, delay instant gratification so that we can gain some benefits in the future, reap the rewards in the future. So there are quite few theories in developmental psychology that deal with these processes, and some focus on development of a child, some focus on development from a child until the adulthood, and some focus on the development as we are adults, so in adulthood basically. For example, there are a few theories of learning, how we learn things. So for example, we learn how to do certain things, how to play an instrument, how to, for example, when we get a new job, we learn how to, perform well in that job. So this development never really ends for us, because when we encounter something new, we are bound to develop, unless we obviously shy away from this opportunity and say, no, we don't want these new experiences. But this development doesn't just end on this very procedural knowledge, if you like, or technical knowledge involving our skills. But also, I believe that we as humans, we go through this self-transformation. Even as adults, we still develop our personalities, we still develop ourselves, unless we are not willing to put any work into that, which is fair enough. Some people decide that they don't want to remain in the same place for most of their lives, most of their adulthood, which is fine. That's their path, that's their choices that they make. But other people want to learn, want to improve, want to gain new skills, want to become a better version of themselves than they were yesterday or years ago. One example of this could be going into therapy, where when you are determined to change something, to fix something, to develop something, and you go through that therapeutic process, in most cases that's what's going to happen, especially if you're lucky and you have a good therapist that can help you and assist you in this process. And so the general idea with therapy is that you change something within yourself and you become someone else in certain way. For example, even the treatment for depression, if you determine that, therapy is going to help you and you have a good therapist, essentially it's a self-transformation process because you treat depression and you become a different version of yourself. So we know that there are many different perspectives on this subject really. We know that, for example, there is this perspective of spiritual development, let's say. So someone perhaps is on the path of enlightenment, let's say, and they go through various trainings, meditation, having a teacher and whatnot that's involved in this process. That's also an example of self-transformation, but perhaps it doesn't always involve other areas of our lives. So based on all this, we can perhaps say that self-transformation is not related just to one process within ourselves, but also can encompass various areas of our lives, different parts of our personalities, different parts of ourselves. For example, you might want to work only on the physical level of self-transformation, where you engage in some sort of training. For example, you want to be a runner, you want to run a marathon, and so you put certain amounts of hours into training and becoming as good as you can in order to run the marathon. So that's also an example of self-transformation, which might involve mostly just the physical level and not wholly the whole personality. On the other hand, I don't think it's possible to just change one area of our lives without affecting the other areas of our lives. Because if we use that example of that runner who trains and trains and trains, he's going to change his mindset in order to, have a motivation and energy to train for being a runner. And so we can say that he's going to adopt his mind, he's going to adopt his values and beliefs in order to be able to maintain his motivation and focus on training. And lastly, I think we have something like personality transformation. So for example, we might rediscover certain parts of ourselves, some skills, some values and beliefs, and we integrate them to our conscious personality. So for example, we could use Myers-Briggs theory and understand how we develop certain cognitive functions. Or we could use, for example, a theory of positive disintegration, where we make these shifts into higher levels, and we essentially become not only a different person because we're still the same, but it's more like becoming who we're supposed to be. So that's obviously quite related to this idea of self-actualization, where we shift all our beliefs, or most of them at least. We shift our values, we shift our behavior, and essentially we might find ourselves being in a completely different place than before. So it all sounds very nice, especially once you crossed towards this other path of self-transformation and you are in this place when you were aiming to be in. However, what happens in between? What happens in that time before you cross towards the other side, before you take that step, before you shift your beliefs and values? And that's essentially what I wanted to talk about. Because this transitional period might be quite challenging. Might be quite challenging in a sense where we are faced with looking at our past, looking at perhaps who we are now, who we were in the past, and having all these beliefs and values that we've been having up to this point. But we might also become aware of our future and who we could be, what's awaiting us, what's going to happen to us if we're going to remain on this path. And I think that at this point during this transitional period, it might be quite easy to slip back into old habits, into our comfort zone and what is familiar to us, what we believe in up to this point, and what we simply respected and valued in our life up to this point that we find ourselves in. So, for example, in the theory of positive disintegration, this process can go back and forth before we are able to cross to the other side, if you like, to pass towards this next level of the self-development. And I think that the major challenges that we could face during this process, during this transitional period really, is simply a result of being conflicted perhaps, whether we should follow this unfamiliar path or whether we should remain where we are. And I think that that's what keeps many people being stuck in a rut, because you think that you can't really make a decision, you can't really take a step because you don't know what's the right thing to do. And this often is the result of clinging towards what is familiar and what we've had in life, clinging towards, certain feelings, certain mental states that we've been having for most of our lives. And this often prevents us from moving forward, from moving towards essentially becoming a better version of ourselves, becoming a more like ourselves, or becoming a completely different version of ourselves. It really depends on how you want to see, how you want to look at this process. Because essentially, self-transformation is what you define it to be. We have so many theories revolving this subject. We have self-actualization, we have positive disintegration, we have, the whole body of developmental psychology, which has I don't know how many theories on human development. So it's quite challenging to say that this is what happens to each of us, but rather that self-transformation is this very private and very unique process that we go through. So, in short, this subject could be approached from many different perspectives. The important question that we could address here and now really is, how do we make that shift? I know it might sound very, very simplified, but based on my experience and research that I've done and working with my clients, the only thing that you really need to do during this transitional phase really is to simply be able to let go of what you know until now, let go of your habits, of your beliefs, of your values, and simply jump into this unknown force that's coming towards you really. Because if you don't, and I don't mean to scare you, if you don't, you're going to be stuck in the same place until you really decide to make that step, to make that move forward and embrace the new force, the new beliefs, the new opportunities that can come towards you, only if you are able to let go of the old. And for me personally, this process, it's not something that happens and I'm done with it. It goes through cycles. We know from psychology that development is not a linear process. You don't go just like climbing the steps, although sometimes it might feel like it, but it's more like a spiral. So in a sense, we go through cycles. We move towards whatever is awaiting us. Like, I don't know where I'm going, to be honest. I'm simply embracing what's coming towards me. And if I try to fight it, if I try to remain where I am, I'm not going to move. I'm not going to move forward. I'm going to be stuck in the same place, in the same mental space for God knows how long. So in a sense, I like to use a metaphor of shedding a skin. When we are in this transitional phase between, our old self and our new self, let's use this metaphor, it's like shedding a skin, because we need to let go of things that don't serve us anymore. We might need to let go of certain people. We might need to let go of certain habits, behaviors, values, beliefs, maybe even change our diet, change our environment. And in a sense, it's a leap into the unknown because you're not really sure what's awaiting you. The best you can hope for is that you're going to land on a firm ground eventually. And this firm ground is provided by your inner security. So your confidence, your ability to believe that, okay, whatever happens, you can rely on yourself and you can adapt to novel circumstances that await you. As I said before, there are many different theories. There is a self-actualization process described by Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. There's also individuation process accordingly to the Jungian theory. And if you're interested in more scientific approach, let's say, there's a whole body of developmental psychology, and there are, millions of different theories regarding our development. So the whole point is that it's quite good that we have many different theories, because each theory will resonate with different individuals. And also you can combine these theories in order to form your own approach and your own understanding to what's happening to you, what has been happening to you in the past, for example. And having this knowledge will provide you with this security that I was talking about. Because if you know what's happening to you, if you understand this process, if you understand that nothing's bad is going to happen to you if you just let go of certain things in your life. Once you're able to understand it, it's just going to be easier and easier to tune in to these natural processes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If something is unclear, or if you're looking for support on your own path of self-transformation, feel free to contact me. I offer personal life coaching and support on this process of self-actualization and individuation. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.